The most important part of the book community to me is getting and giving book recommendations, putting out content where I read a book, I love a book or I hate a book, and then recommendations pour in so kindly from everybody about what I might like to read next. Then I read that thing, then I make more content, then you find out what to read. It's just this beautiful giant cycle of recommendations. Today, instead of looking at my own comments and to my own audience to tell me what to read, I'm gonna steal recommendations from other people, other creators, other readers who put out a question to their audience. What should I read next? Here's what I like. What would you recommend? I'm gonna go in there, I'm gonna nab those. So the first part of this vlog is going to be me finding the books across social media every time something comes up where I think I can steal something. And then the second half of the vlog is gonna be me reading the books. This inspiration came from just this week when I picked this book up based on a recommendation in the comment section of Covers with Cassidy.
I just read my first 5-star contemporary romance of the year and I want to relive this high, so I need your help because make me feel this way again.
She posted a video saying how much she loved Forget Me Not, which is one of my only 5-star romances ever in my life, contemporary real world romances. And she was looking for things like it, and somebody commented and left 3 different ideas. It's different this time, the ex-vows and all the missing pieces. Now, something about me is I don't love second chance romances. Like, that's not a trope that I seek out and I pick up a lot. And so for me, Forget Me Not was kind of, in spite of it being a second chance romance, I ended up loving it. And what you can get from these personalized, like anybody can type in second chance romances because that's the #1 trope that this would fit into. But the thing about personalized recommendations is people are catching a vibe, like you're explaining what you liked about the book and what you want similar. And hopefully what I'm getting from this, which I got from Forget Me Not, is the fun, is the more lighthearted nature. So I did try out the first couple of chapters already and I feel very invested in this. So this is book #1 on my TBR. And next time I come across somebody's post where I feel like I could maybe pull something from the comments, maybe they're looking for something similar to me, then I will check in with you until we have 4 or 5 books to read in this vlog. I don't go on Threads very often, probably like once a week. I just open the app and I scroll for like 10 minutes and I'm done. I don't interact with anything, so I definitely haven't curated my feed to show me anything like book specific. Today, when I open it up, is almost exclusively people talking about daylight savings time. And as I was scrolling, I saw Marina's 3 hours ago. What's the best standalone sci-fi or fantasy you've read recently? And please don't recommend me stuff with bad writing or that you read with your brain off. I want something good and gripping. I'm in a drought. I too am always looking for a standalone fantasy. So I kind of think this is the perfect place to steal ideas from because most of these people know Marina's reading very well. I'm assuming if you're following somebody and you're going out of your way to recommend something, it's because you know their taste. And even if our taste doesn't align, I know that she has a very high standard. And so people wouldn't recommend things unless they're really good, I feel. Here are our options. The first thing I see is The Girl with 1,000 Faces, Blood Over Brighthaven, which I've read, The Red Winter, The Bright Sword, The Poet Empress, Malazan, 3 Body Problem. Oh, there's so many here. The Tainted Cup. See, The Tainted Cup and Blood Over Brighthaven are 2 that I gave 3 stars. Actually, The Tainted Cup is part of a series. Okay, somebody else said The Poet Empress, and then somebody else said The Poet Empress, Isle in the Silver Sea, Son of the Morning, The Poet Empress again, The Everlasting again, gave that, 4.5 stars. Okay, The Everlasting, and then after that, the person said The Poet Empress along with it. So maybe if we have similar taste with Everlasting, Poet Empress could work. The Raven Scholar, that's part of a series. The Winter Night Trilogy. You said trilogy in it. See, people don't read. Wait, this is fun because if I put a prompt out there and people recommended things that didn't fit the prompt, I would feel bad about being like, you didn't listen to the prompt, but this isn't me. This is someone else's prompt and I can stand up for that person. Some of you don't listen. 3 Body Problem and the following 2 books in the trilogy. Right. I guess maybe what people are saying is like you can read the first book as a standalone or it's really good as a standalone. The Poet Empress for sure. I think I'm gonna go with the Poet Empress with the amount that I'm seeing it. And also this was recommended to me directly at the bookstore. I was buying something, I can't remember what it was, like last month, and the bookseller recommended me the poet Empress. I guess maybe it was based on what I was buying. I can't remember how it came up, but she was very adamant that I had to read it. I don't think I even know the plot. The only thing I've seen about this, I think, is a couple people were talking about it, putting it in a romantic category, a romantasy category, and then a bunch of other people were mad and they were like, this, stop pitching non-romantic books as romantasy. Like, this has to stop. So I think it's good for me to go in with the right expectations. Now I have a romance and a fantasy. So let's see what else I happen to come across and gather over the coming days. We've gotten a suggestion from Threads and from Instagram. So of course we have to go on YouTube because I'm here on YouTube. I got this video suggested in my recommended books about obsession. And this person, Frankie Shelf, has done a couple videos with especially women being obsessed with things or unhinged women. I did this video years ago, a 5-star audit of all of my favorite things, all of my favorite tropes and micro tropes. Obsession is one of my huge ones. And I reflected on it recently and added some more categories and such. Obsession has always remained. I tend to like obsession about things, about life, about like careers, more so than just being obsessed with a person. Of course, though, when anybody posts a video like this, like I did with my audit, or anything that's themed like this from Frankie, the recommendations pour in because people can think of all of the obsession books that they have read and they want to recommend. So I'm selecting a book that has been recommended to both Frankie and I. And unlike the other books that I've selected that were intended for someone else and I'm picking it up before they even get a chance to, this one I actually already know Frankie has read because one of their videos highlights this. And I think it'd actually be fun for me to read a book recommended to, this has been recommended to me before, to both of us, and then see how our thoughts afterwards contrast or complement each other. And that book is going to be Paradise Logic. This is about a woman who is obsessed with becoming the perfect girlfriend. And that's all I know about it. I think the cover is hilarious. I think the book is going to be hilarious. The recommender is Danny. Danny's Reads. I feel like this person looks familiar, but the passion behind this recommendation, caps lock, please read Paradise Logic. Please read Paradise Logic. Please read Paradise Logic. I'm a bookseller. I will send you my own personal copy simply to watch you reading and reviewing it. I've never read anything like it. I'm excited to get into this channel. It's so funny. I've said this before as being like an elder, apparently, booktuber now, that it's so fun how people can come into the community, especially if they come from other platforms, and have such an instant audience or have just a large audience. And it's someone that I've never heard of before because, you know, back in the day, years ago, if somebody had more than 100,000 subscribers, like we've all heard of that person. Like we all know each other, and maybe everybody watching this knows who Frankie is, but they're very much new to me. And even if we have differing thoughts about some of these obsessive stories or unhinged women, we read a lot of similar things. And while I would like to take just some of Frankie's recommendations within these videos that I just scrubbed through, I'm going to take the comment. I actually saw this a couple times in the comments, but I pulled this one specifically because it was very enthusiastic and I'm really looking forward to this read. I take screenshots all the time of book recommendations and then I just never end up reading the books. So I pulled out my phone from over a year ago, and on here, I found a lot of screenshots. So from TikTok, there's this one from, I believe, April of 2025. Des posted this one that said, POV, you're trying to find a weird girl book written by a BIPOC author. I don't think this was even necessarily a call for recommendations, but recommendations definitely poured in. In fact, somebody said like, this is the comment section that I really needed right now. I just think it's fun. She posted this video, like, can you relate to this feeling? Like, this is such a frustrating experience. And then people not only agreed, but also here's some books that I would recommend. So of the screenshots that I took, I've already read a lot of these. Luster, Lakewood, House of Cotton, My Sister the Serial Killer, The Land of Milk and Honey, Model Home, The Center, Chlorine, and then ones that lean more horror, Bat Eater, My Heart is a Chainsaw, Natural Beauty, The Eyes of the Best Part. A lot of these I loved. And I think when we're talking about weird girl books, it's hard to pin down exactly what that means because people are looking for different things. I find that when a lot of people are talking about a weird girl book, it's just set in reality. It's a contemporary novel, and it very often revolves around just weird sexual experiences and or child abuse. And then in the more horror realm, when people recommend weird girl books in that arena, it's usually about cannibalism. And that span of things is not what I'm looking for in a weird girl book. But also recommendations came in for like Legendborn and just Kimberly Lemming in general. And I feel like that's more fantasy, there are maybe, I don't know. So I did go back to find the original video to check all of the recommendations, and the few that I think I might try out, or the ones that I'm deciding between in this moment, are Pink Slime, because I already have that, I'm pretty sure, in my TBR closet. Jawbone, because people have been recommending this to me for years and I don't even know what it is. And I'm a Fan, which I think sounds more contemporary and like a stalker story, which is also not my favorite thing. But those are 3 that are in my screenshots. I have a feeling I'm gonna lean towards Jawbone because I think Pink Slime might not actually be what I'm looking for, and I just don't know it. Speaking of screenshots, while I was looking for some TikTok ones and I found a lot of different options, I also have weirdly a screenshot from Reddit, and I don't use Reddit. I don't go on Reddit. The only time is when I was making a whole video about it and I was getting book recommendations and I didn't like any of the books that were recommended to me. So I don't trust Reddit for book recommendations at all. But I guess what was happening at that time is while I was on the app that day, I looked at, or I must have been served some different posts, because there's a whole romantasy forum and I have a screenshot. I have no recollection of ever going here and ever seeing this, but I have a screenshot where I cannot see what the person was asking for. I can only see the recommendations. And I thought this would be a really unhinged way to end the video, is to read a book that I don't even know why it's being recommended. All I can see from the original post says, do you have recs that fit that description, with 10 upvotes, I think that's what they're called, and 4 comments, only 4 comments. The thing is, I'm gonna be so embarrassed by the end because we're gonna have to search, I hope this post is still up, and search what the person was asking for, and we're gonna find out what piqued my interest enough to think that I also wanted these recommendations. The first one says, not a sex scene, so the person must have been asking for a specific type of sex scene. Yikes! They said not a sex scene, but there is a book with heavy kissing and close to sex where this happens. This happens. What happens? It's definitely a spoiler though. Amid Clouds and Bones is what they said. And I'm pretty sure that's a YA book. The second recommendation is Between Sun and Moon by Jacqueline Cott. In this specific book, there is at least one scene where this happens. What happens? In fact, I was reading your post and automatically thought you were describing this book scene. I think there are somewhat similar scenarios in the first, but I don't clearly remember. So this is like the second or third book in a series. Then the third recommendation says The Tempest of Wrath and Vengeance. It's the second book in a series, and without ruining the plot, it has the exact thing you're asking for. What are they asking for? 10 out of 10, it's not a completed series. Here's the dilemma. The thing that happens that we must find out together, that I apparently was interested in reading in romantasy, happens in either the third book or the second book in a series. So I suppose that I should read the first book in one of these series, and then, I don't know, if I like it enough, go on to the second and or third book. I have another screenshot on this old ass phone where Thana posted a TikTok that says, when it's real enemies to lovers, where they actually hate each other. The banter is amazing. Them not realizing when they switched from hate to love, the tension, the questioning and confusion. And that's also what I need. I really need an enemies to, like a true enemies to lovers. I think it would just be so fun to read. And somebody in here, and these were not screenshotted at the same time. I don't think I even knew I don't know who this author is, so I never would have connected these with one another. But somebody, TMCDS, recommended the Legacy series by Melissa K. Roerich, which I think is the same. I think this is the same series. So underrated, even had me hating the MMC. I think that means male main character. And Thana said, perfect. I don't know at this point if Thana has read this book. I don't know if the original person on Reddit has read the recommendation, but I'm going to steal this recommendation from these two individuals and see if I like it, whatever it is. So that's my collection of book recommendations that I stole from other people, and now let's start reading them. I'm reading my first pick. It's different this time, by Joss Richard. The person who left the comment is Whispering Chapters on Instagram. I looked into the other two books, and one of them seems a lot heavier than what I typically like and what I think Forget Me Not is. The X-Vows makes sense because they're both wedding-centric books. And so this one seems like a bit of a risk because I don't know, exactly why they would have recommended it beyond it just being a second chance romance. I think my expectations when I look for a recommendation and I want a comp for something else is that the tone is similar more than anything else. So what Forget Me Not did for me is it had a lot of fun scenes. It had steamy scenes on page steam. Hoping for that from this. And it also, of course, had a love story and people coming back together and a mystery of why they fell apart in the first place. And I'm already getting that from the first 5 chapters of this. So we have, what are their names? June and Adam. And they lived in New York together for a number of years in this beautiful brownstone. We don't know what ended their relationship or if they were really in a relationship. I think they were roommates, and I don't know if there was a big chunk of time that they were together or it was just one time, what broke them up, who's responsible. I can't get a vibe for who kind of ruined things or if it was amicable, what really happened, which I think is fun because I love a mystery plot in a book that's not a mystery. A mystery doesn't just have to mean who stole something or who killed somebody. It's why did these people not work out and what exactly was that inciting incident? So in the past 5 years that they haven't spoken, they have gone on to do different things. And again, Forget Me Not, something that I would look for in a comp for this is people who are really passionate about their jobs and run their own business. Forget Me Not was about a wedding planner and a florist. This one of them is an actor. She isn't a failed actor, but she's struggling to have her really big moment. She has a passion for Broadway though. So while she's in New York, she's about to audition for Les Mis, and we're going to see how that's all going to turn out. And he was in culinary school when they lived together. And now 5 years later, since they haven't spoken, he works for maybe runs his own restaurant. The reason she's in New York to begin with, he already lives there, but she lives in LA. She's there because the person who owned the brownstone that they rented years and years ago together has died and has no one else to pass it along to and decides to gift it to them, a $6 million house. And so now they're going to spend the next month, as all the paperwork goes through, living in the place because she can't really afford anything else. And him, I think it's partially because it's closer to his work and more convenient, but also I think he's doing it to bother her, but he appears, I think intentionally, very unbothered, very go with the flow. And I can't imagine why you'd be mad about this situation. We were just roommates then, weren't we? And aren't we just gonna be roommates now? What's the big deal? So I'm gonna head out. Liam is doing his medical stuff again this weekend. So 3 days of being in the hospital. So I'm probably gonna knock this out hanging out there. Today, definitely need something light and easy to read. So this seems like the perfect pick. Oh, it has been a long day. I was just about to go to bed and then I remembered I needed to update you first. I'm already ready for bed. I have my Invisalign in. I got halfway through the book because I spent the other half of our time there planning my book club live show for this weekend. For the besties, we have a seasonal book club, but we just did Audition by Katie Kitamura, and next we're gonna do fantasy. I stopped at a very juicy section. I thought we were gonna fully go for it, and I'm glad that we didn't. I'm thinking with this back and forth that we're getting, and it is perfectly not just flashbacks, we are in each timeline equally. It doesn't seem like there was something crazy that ruined anything between them because they're both acting very nonchalant current day. So the fact that they didn't speak for 5 years, I think it must just be something simple one of them confessed feelings for the other and the other didn't reciprocate, but it wasn't a big falling out. It was just okay, let's move on to do something else in our lives. Or one of them got a serious partner maybe, and the other one was I know that I have feelings for you and this does not feel like a safe relationship to be having for my mental health. So that's nice because there isn't too much intensity. The intensity that the book does have has to do with their families. She hasn't had much support at all from her family. So that's something that she is struggling with, dealing with her own, I guess, self-confidence or self-love. She did get that kind of from his parents, but his parents are going through their own medical troubles in the past timeline that weighs heavily on him. And she finds a lot of comfort in his family. So I think it's the kind of situation where they're so close and they're such good friends that they can't imagine being more because it could ruin what they have. But therefore, it ruined what they had anyway because they couldn't admit their feelings for one another. This feels like a really solid 4-star romance. There's definitely some things that this book could do to get a 5. So feeling really good about this pick. I was gonna wait until we were back at the hospital tonight to finish this, but I woke up thinking about this book. I think I had a dream about this book. Oh, I also had a really scary dream last night where it was one of those ones where I thought I was in a dream but couldn't figure out if I was in a dream. So I have this recurring dream where I'm in a vehicle and I fly off of a cliff, like into a forest or into an ocean or something. There's a moment in like so many of my dreams where I'm driving and I feel like I'm losing control of my vehicle a little bit, and then suddenly I start to like float in the air and then I'm crashing. And last night I had that happen. I was driving and I know my husband was there because I was like, look me in the eyes and tell me if this is a dream or not, because this is one of those moments where I cannot tell if it's a dream. And I genuinely thought in my dream that it was real life. And I was like, finally in real life, everything that I dreamed is finally happening and I'm finally actually flying off this cliff. Oh, it was the worst. And now I just need to get back into this book. I read like one more chapter and I think we're about to get a really juicy scene. Very satisfying read. Thank you to Whispering Chapters or Genesis for this. She is a book influencer, so many romance recommendations, and she has this whole shelf on Goodreads with second chance romance. So if you're looking for anything in this arena, definitely check her out. I'll put her link down below. She has not posted a review of Forget Me Not or a rating, which is interesting because I would have loved to see how like her language compares. You know how some people kind of interpret books differently, because one thing that this didn't have in common to me was the tone. I just feel like this was more fun. And I wonder if she felt that way as well, or if she would have used the same language as she did in this review. As I've said before, I'm always looking for a rom-com, but I don't think that this is a rom-com. I just remember having more fun with it. And also there's more of a, not enemies, but like they do not like each other, and that's a question in the book. This one, they don't hate each other. They're not like being mean to each other. They're not specifically trying to avoid each other. It's just that they're not as close as they once were, and we're wondering what that moment was. Something this definitely has in common is the forced proximity. They're forced to work together for a wedding, and they're forced to live together while they're waiting to figure out what's going to happen with the house. They both had the perfect amount of steam. This one maybe a little bit more. Something else they have in common is there's this element of kind of being caught, and I really love that. Like whether it's in a steamy moment or, you know, the morning after a steamy moment, people find them together and question, like, I thought you didn't want to be with this person. Like, oh, I was invested in this relationship a long time ago, and like, what are you guys doing? But they haven't even committed to each other. So it's a nerve-wracking but fun element of books that I have realized I really like. As far as my final rating, I'm gonna give it a 4.25. It definitely was not a perfect 5-star romance. What could have done it for me is giving a little more evidence to why they weren't good for each other back in the day, giving them a little bit more of personalities, or like, I guess, flaws, because it does kind of seem like there was not a good enough reason for them to have not been together for those years that they were living together and not have spoken for that many years. It's not that we weren't given reasons. I just don't think we were given good enough reasons, and we could have had a little more complexity with these characters, especially from somebody who loves reading about unlikable people in books. I think that could have turned other people off for sure if they truly had some serious issues, but I would have liked to see them overcome those issues. And also, if it was a rom-com, if there was a little more fun, if there was even a little bit more banter, they were just more like understanding of each other, and I need a little bit more sauce. I don't know. It's a fantastic comp. Be honest, do I look like I belong on like the prairie? This shirt is so cute, but I have to be really specific with my hair whilst I wear it. But I just washed it because I have a hair appointment tomorrow and I didn't want to like style it and spend all the time on it. Yeah, no, I have to change. I'm reading The Poet Empress and I was like, oh, I'll read the first couple chapters before I commit to buying it. And now I find myself halfway through it and I still haven't been convinced that I need to go buy it. I look like Wendy now from Wendy's, or Pippi Longstocking. I find this fantasy to have a very generic setup. I feel like I have read this introduction 10 different times and the introduction has gone on for, I don't even know, 200 pages. We start with a 16-year-old girl. She is living in poverty. There is a famine and there is the rich, wealthy elite. They also have magical abilities and they do not help those beneath them. She's very self-sacrificing, of course, because that's the character we have to follow, who sees everybody else's blight and wants to do something about it. And there's this opportunity where she can become a concubine for the prince. There is this very tortured prince. I think we're going to come to understand he had a really bad childhood and that's the reason why he is the way he is. And the way he is very uncaring, very brutal, and through a series of events, even though she is a lowly girl from lowly society and all of the other people applying to be concubines are from well-known families, they have social ties and links, she gets the opportunity to go to the empire. And not only is she selected as a concubine, she's the one who's going to be up to be the empress. All the other girls in the house hate her. They are trying to sabotage her. I don't think there's anything wrong with the story that we're getting. I just feel like it is a very generic kind of opening and it's taken a long time to get to where we are. And what I am interested in is what's going to happen in the second half, because we've done all of this setup and we've established so much and people love this book so much that surely it's about to go in a really interesting direction. So I am definitely intrigued to continue. The writing is good. The magic system is being slowly explored. You can basically turn words and poems into magic. She is not able to read or write, nor are most of the women. And she's finding an opportunity, though dangerous, setting herself up for scrutiny or punishment, but to uncover her own magical abilities. We're just starting to get some backstory of the prince and his brothers. There are like multiple princes kind of vying for the position and various people in the kingdom who want this prince or this prince to be in charge, who don't want the current prince, and etc. And it's interesting at those chapters that it's not narrated by the male narrator, though there is a male narrator in the audiobook. So I'm most curious because we have gotten one section narrated by him. I'm wondering why there isn't more of that, because it is focused on these boys for many chapters. I just feel like the audiobook could be a little more engaging to listen to, but everything is good so far and I'm expecting incredibleness with the second half. Hello, while I still have good lighting, I wanted to show you my new hair color because I really like it. Today I just had my hair appointment and then I filmed my seasonal TBR and now I'm editing it, so I probably won't be getting back into the Poet Empress until the sun starts to go down. But I needed you to see the saturation. I think next time I'm gonna go even lighter and brighter and like a true kind of orange, but the sun is definitely doing it a favor. I think we're just at the point where everything's established. You think you know everything about everyone, everyone's goals, everyone's tendencies, emotions. There's a word that I'm trying to think of that I can't think of. And now everything's gonna switch, I'm sure, because there's still so much of the book left. It's like, this person isn't actually what you thought, and this person is actually going to go in this direction. I can't imagine that not happening based on the things that people say about it. To wrap up my thoughts about the Poet Empress, it is 2 days later. It took me 3 days to listen to the Poet Empress. which is a lot for me. I think everybody who recommended this, even though it wasn't to me, I feel like I got to take the recommendation. I'm gonna give this a 3. I imagine Marinas will like this more than I did. It has all the themes that fantasy books highlight when you're featuring like young, impressionable characters in and amongst people with power, and how they might take advantage of that and the things that they will do for their own gain. It does diverge with who I guess is involved in who that happens to, and therefore gives some really powerful representation that I think people will typically enjoy and are enjoying. That no doubt can be respected by me, even if I'm only giving this book a 3. The topics did make the book difficult for me to finish, or more so the tone made it difficult to finish. And it's not really fair for me to say I wish this book was more tonally diverse, because I can't control what the book wants to be, but it was hard to want to pick back up the audiobook every time, because it was so the same note throughout that I knew it was going to be bleak and difficult to read. And there was nothing really in the plot that I feel like we were chasing or anticipating. But obviously everyone has such a different reading experience, and other people may have found this really exciting and really intriguing. But for me to take 3 days to read a 400-page book is just kind of crazy. And the fact that it's 400 pages and it's a standalone fantasy, we're just packing so much into it. For one, you have a character who is discovering, learning, and performing a magical ability. That on its own is a lot for a standalone to take on. 2, you have this marriage of convenience where these characters are meeting for the very first time. You follow all of their dynamics, all of the emotional weight that comes with this decision, with this marriage, with abuse, with trauma happening. And then 3, you have this whole other storyline in the past and the princes as children and everything that comes along with the relationships happening then and the political maneuvering. And I think if I had to pick one of those 3 things that didn't do it for me the most, it would be that middle one. I don't know that we got the most emotional depth or complexity. I know it was there for the character. I just don't know that we really got the insight that I would have expected. But everything was well done from a writing perspective, in my opinion. The descriptions were great. Nothing was confusing. The stakes were established well. The journey was clear. The themes were easy to identify. Everything felt really intentional. Everything felt well edited. And I liked everything that we were covering within the book. It wasn't like a 4 or 5 star as far as me being impacted by the story in the way that I thought I would. And I don't think that the story was as complex as I thought. When I'm thinking about other standalone fantasy that gets really high average ratings, I just don't think that this is at the same level as a lot of those other books that were being mentioned. For a debut, I'm impressed by it. I would read more from this author. I think it left some things to be desired for me as a reader, but I also don't think the book did anything wrong. This morning I tried out the 3 books, the 3 contenders, and Jawbone is exactly the thing that I was worried about having to read. It was like this teacher kidnapping her student, and I just didn't want to continue in that. And then Pink Slime, this is my own bag because I literally have the physical book. I own it. And it was boring. It was really boring. And I think at another time, in another video, with another combination of books, I would be interested in picking that up. But I just want something that's a little more engaging, a little more interesting. I'm a fan, I think, more enthusiastic with its plot, but it started out just as like a stalker story, and it really did not interest me. So it's back to the drawing board. I think some people might be disappointed that I didn't pick up one of those, but I went to my local indie and I had no idea how small this book was. And I feel like it's a good, quick one to get to. This is Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata. Of all of this author's books, this is probably the least weird, but maybe if I read this, I can establish I have read from this author, and everyone can stop recommending me Earthlings because I'm never going to read that. This is translated from the Japanese by Ginny Tapley Takamori, and it was recommended in that video by Maddie. Maddie suggested this. There was no extra information, and I have no idea if the creator has read this. I can't find any other social media. I can't find a Goodreads or a Storygraph or anything, so I don't know all of the weird books that maybe she has already read from these comments. Just I can see through her TikTok a couple things that she has picked up recently, like I saw Natural Beauty and I saw The Unworthy and Tender as the Flesh. I think she had a mix of results with those ones, but this is definitely one that's recommended a lot in the weird girl arena, but I think it's mostly just the way that it's written that's weird, and perhaps the perspective of this woman, because I did read the first couple chapters, is just a little bit like quirky, and therefore it reads weird, but I don't think anything about this plot is going to be weird besides the fact that this woman is obsessed. Is she obsessed, or does she just feel like she's found her place as a cog in the machine of the convenience store and can't imagine her life not at the convenience store, and everyone around her is like, you should be getting a better job, you should be worrying about finding a partner, and she just feels very content with working this job. But I think things are going to come into this story that make her branch out, and I just get the sense it's not going to be good for her, and she's going to end up back at the convenience store. I especially feel good about this pick because I also grabbed Paradise Logic and read the first chapter of this, and this is going to be like the sexually explicit, weirder one, although the perspective, the narration style is quite similar between these two, actually, with a character who's just so internally focused and like can't really think outside themselves, and everyone else is feeding them information and they're just like, oh, okay, I guess that's how the world works, I guess I'll go along with that. So I am doing two weird girl books back to back, but I think these are very different tones. I'm currently at the mall. I'm going in to do some shopping. And what else? I have to go to HomeSense because I have to get a new bath mat. Really exciting stuff. I showed you guys the last bath mat I bought because apparently bathroom hauls are just a really exciting part of my life and my channel. And the bath mat sucks. It's like really shitty. So I need to go buy a new one. And I think I'm going to go to Sweet Legs because the Sweet Legs store is now in the mall rather than a standalone location. And they have these pants. They used to just be leggings, but now they have like flowy pants also patterned, and I think I could get into that. All right, I got the bath mat. It's low-key a little ugly, but it's washable, and I apparently need something that I can put in the washing machine. I didn't get the pants from Sweet Legs. They don't have like a proper change room. It's like a curtain and there's a chair in the way, and so you can't even really see me, but they were fine. I'm gonna think on it. But I did get a little tank top because it's really not spring, but I can pretend. And I don't own anything orange, so this is a vibe. And then of course, Aerie has something new. Okay, you might know I own this sweater in like 5 different colors. This one has a pocket on the front, and I don't own this kind of pink. I wanted something that's like a hoodie, like will go past my butt, that I can just wear with leggings for a walk, but isn't just a frumpy hoodie. See, this is the pink I already own. This is the new shade of pink. I love it. I think it's good. I used to think that I couldn't wear pink with my hair color, but I can. Anyway, I'm gonna get halfway through Convenience Store Woman and then tell you what I'm thinking. So far, so good. Past halfway. I think this is exactly what I expected it to be. We have an interesting perspective that we're reading from. She has found her place. She's found her passion. She's found something that she's good at, working in this convenience store. She's kind of willing to sacrifice anything, but it also doesn't feel like sacrifice. The amount that she's working is perfect for her. She's not burning out. She doesn't feel exhausted because this is her purpose. Like, this is what she was meant to do. There are other people who work at the store who are like students, or like who have less time or don't want to work on holidays. It's open 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And other people have times that they're unavailable. And she's always like, I'll be there. I'll do it. Like, I have no problem. I want to be here. And she has different employees come in and she critiques them. But she doesn't really have a lot of feelings, a lot of emotions that she understands. She's very much mirroring people around her. When someone is upset about something, she will mimic their voice, their tone, their feelings, and try to understand where they're coming from, but it's more so just to fit in with everybody else because she doesn't naturally integrate well. She just wants to be a useful tool, and she doesn't care about her like deteriorating in life. It's, oh my gosh, what happens when I get old and I can no longer work for the store and I can no longer be useful to the store. I can definitely relate to her having dreams about work. I remember when I worked at Tim Hortons, I would literally have dreams, like hour-long dreams, where I was pouring coffee and just doing mundane tasks at work. And that is a sense of like peace for her when she's relaxing. She thinks about stocking the shelves. We have a coworker character who's becoming a little more prominent. And there's definitely a lot of talk of expectations of women and the culture surrounding marriage and the workforce and what you're expected to do in society and if you're being useful or not. She's like, look at me, I'm being useful. But people are like, don't you want a better job? Don't you want to aspire for more? Don't you want to be respected? Don't you want to have a partner? Like, people should know that you're capable. Isn't that what you want to exude to people? And she's like, I don't know, like I guess, but also I'm perfectly happy with where I'm at. She doesn't do a lot of self-interrogating. It's only when somebody is challenging her. And I think there's a million categories of weird girl books, but I think we really need to differentiate when talking about it to people who haven't been indoctrinated into our weird girl society, that there's like two different sections of it. You could go from like convenience store woman or like even everyone in this room will tell me to be dead, to like my husband, to even Night Bitch. I don't think Night Bitch goes too far, to like Blob, a love story, to Bunny. And we're still in like a safe version of weird girl fiction where we have a quirky narrator or a unique narrator. They're just a little bit odd to the rest of society, and or they're going through something, a strange situation. And then we have like disgusting weird girl fiction, more sexually explicit, from things like A Touch of Jen and Big Swiss. I haven't read Shy Girl yet, but I imagine like Shy Girl here, Sky Daddy, and then to things like The Eyes of the Best Part and Mayfly. And somewhere in there is Ripe and Paradise Rot and Where I End, like just kind of nasty body stuff. I feel like if people are like, oh, I want to get into weird girl fiction, and they start here, it could make them not go into this is like weird girl light. Like, this is where you should start to understand like what some people are talking about when they talk about weird girl fiction. Because when I read this, compared to so much other stuff, this doesn't feel weird almost at all, but I understand it fits more into this kind of territory. It's definitely not going to be a favorite book of mine, but I'm glad to pick something up that I can recommend to a group of people for sure. I have finished Convenience Store Woman. I feel like for me, this is a 3.75 for enjoyment, but it's a 4-star objective rating. Nothing under 4 stars is allowed to live on my shelves, and I don't know if this quite qualifies, but I'm gonna let it. There did turn out, actually, I've never read the synopsis of this. Doesn't talk about it. Okay, well, I will say like there is more of a plot and there is something regarding another person. I feel like it could have gone further. Like, it really could have ended up being a super weird book, depending on how she treated a certain person. But as far as what we're exploring with her personality, that wouldn't really make sense for the book to go in that direction anyway. I think if you saw representation for yourself in here, that's totally valid, but I don't think you necessarily have to read it that way as if she is an autistic coded character, because that's not necessarily on page in a way that you have to read the book. But I loved following her in her journey, and everything that she was questioning and everything that society was telling her and everyone else was the right thing to do. The way that people just go along with what they're told, the way people fight against it. This is very interesting, and I appreciate the recommendation. It wasn't a recommendation for me, but it was a good recommendation. My second weird girl book of the day is Paradise Logic by Sophie Kemp. I think even just based on the cover, I do prefer this one, but I think this gives a certain vibe. And just based on the cover, we our understanding that we're gonna have some biblical reference. I think as far as how our main character feels about, oh yeah, her name's Reality, feels like her role should be in life. She is just here, kind of like this, but in a very different way, here to serve others, here to be something for other people to look at and enjoy, and not really being her own person. And also, I just think the illustration style gives a certain vibe. Like, he is more realistically drawn, and she is drawn more like a cartoon, more like anime, as if she's not a real person in this reality, because in her mind she just exists to be the perfect girlfriend, and that is going to be her aim in life, is doing everything so she will be enjoyed by another person. I believe this is going to be more on this scale of weird girl things as opposed to the other one that we talked about. In fact, I know it is, because in the very first chapter I was reading some sexually explicit stuff, and I don't know how far it's gonna go, but at the same time it doesn't feel like a disgusting version of weird girl fiction. It's just more explicit, and I think it's funny. Like, I do think that I can appreciate the tone of this. She's being insulted, she's being degraded during a certain experience, and she just agrees to kind of go along with it. She says, "Fido, Fido, be my Fido." My brain yelped, "Bow wow, wow, bow wow, wow. I am Fido as well as a small child." Because of course, a lot of types of men in a lot of types of relationships with a lot of types of women want nothing but an obedient, in their mind, companion, and someone who reflects youth and innocence. And this just feels like a very satirical, but also very on the nose critique of misogyny, etc. I was an outline on the page and he was going to color me in. What a fantastic metaphor. So she has found a man who she's decided is going to be the one who's going to be her boyfriend, and she keeps bringing it up to him, like, "Do you want to be my boyfriend yet? Do you want to officially be my boyfriend?" And she's doing everything that she thinks she's supposed to do, going on various websites, getting suggestions, and just like looking at the world around her and the way that men react to certain women and how she is supposed to behave and the type of person that she's supposed to be. Her perspective of him is just so funny. And then also there's all of these random things, like a commercial on TV, it's somebody selling medicine, and she's like, "Oh, and then he talked about how this medicine might make you want to kill yourself," or something, as if it's totally casual and normal. And then her perspective on Ariel, he was a real go-getter. He had a zest for life. He was always saying stuff like, "I want a cream inside of you." Me and Ariel, we loved intellectual conversations such as these ones. I was so lucky that I had a special guy to chit chat with all the time. This is so stupid. I think I'm having fun with it. Of this contained literally the most batshit monologue I've ever experienced. And I'm trying to figure out how 20 pages from now I'm gonna give this 5 stars, and how I'm going to explain that to you or justify myself. This is one of the most absurdist things I've ever read. I'm having an absolute blast. How this is about to end. Like, are we gonna get some kind of final moment, or is it just gonna be ridiculous to the last word? You know that moment, stay with me, in Everything Everywhere All at Once, where they're just represented by 2 rocks talking to each other? Like, that's kind of how this whole book feels, is if that scene went on for 2 hours. That was the most batshit thing I've probably ever read. Like, I'm genuinely shocked this doesn't have a lower average rating on Goodreads. I guess it's lucky. It's good that it has the marketing that it does, but it's lucky that it hasn't gotten into the hands of people who like weren't set up to understand what this was doing, because if just the average person off the street picked this up, they would hate it. Like truly, genuinely, what was that? It's obviously 5 stars. 5 big fucking stars. This is an impossible book to review, truly. I don't even know what to say about it. I was sitting here thinking for a minute of how I wanted to describe what this is, and I felt like I was starting to sound in my review in my head like a corporate bro. If you've been to enough meetings, you know that like people, when they don't know what the fuck they're talking about, but they're trying to sound intelligent, or like they know like the campaign or whatever that they're pitching, they will just use like 2 contrasting words against each other because they think it sounds like they're doing something. So like I want to call this provocative but mundane at the same time. I want to describe this as, or her as, unaware and naive, but at the same time hyper observant. The book is vague but obvious at the same time. You know what I mean? You don't know what I mean because you haven't read it. It's like as if Georgia Nicholson had a lobotomy and whose life was being narrated by Chuck Palahniuk. That's the only reference point I have. I don't think I have read anything like this. There's a couple books that I want to pull and tell you, like some weird girl books, but they're not right. Like they're not the right comp for this. I think what's really fun about this book, besides just the writing, it's dark and it's funny. A lot of this I just feel like can't be taken as fact. Everything that she is saying and interpreting, or like the way we're interpreting her through her own thoughts, is not who she actually is, how she's being perceived by others, and like everything that she's witnessing is not necessarily reality, because we get little snippets of like how other people are seeing her. There's a little bit of perspective outside of her, and it's just so interesting when those come into it, and the way you see certain characters reacting to her, because it doesn't all necessarily fit. We get glimpses of what feels like trauma. There's clear trauma, but there's also like little references that feel like they should be bigger than they are, and they're not being fully explored, but I feel like that is definitely informing who this character is. And also, much like when I was reading, where is it? Autobiography of Red, I told you guys, if you wanted to take my recommendation, just read the very beginning, because it's so jarring and it's so strange, but it perfectly exemplifies not the story overall, but like this thing where it's like fragments of things and it's not even a full story. I think it sets you up for like how the book is going to function. I feel the same way about Paradise Logic. Like this opening looking like this, and then after that there's just like a little picture, and it's like, I'm gonna tell you a story first. And if you fuck with that, then like you'll know if you're gonna like this or not. And if you start it and you go like, what even is this? Then don't continue. I don't know what else to say about this. The whole book is exactly how I pitched it. Is it how it pitches itself? She is obsessed with becoming the perfect girlfriend. That's all the story is. The writing is weirder than the plot is. Like it is about how the story is being told. And I just remembered I can now go watch Frankie's review for this. Do I think Frankie loved this as much as me? I think it's possible. I know we don't align in certain ways, but I feel like this could be the one. I'll be right back.
So I loved this book. I thought it was fantastic. I loved its specific brand of weirdness. I thought it was really funny. I think it's very strange without being incomprehensible or hard to follow.
Okay, so Frankie really liked it. I'll link the review down below if you want to see what else is said about this book. But Frankie even made a similar point about the cover and the first chapter and how it gives a vibe for the book. Oh, I'm so glad the video went in this direction, because I thought I was going to start going downhill towards the end, because I know that we're going to finish it out with a pretty low rating, because I did start my final book and ooh boy. Good morning, everybody. Say good morning.
Why?
It's really early. We're up at Big White. We're on a snowboarding, snowshoeing date. Liam and his friend are snowboarding. We're gonna go out for breakfast, and I'm gonna really lock in and get this book done today. So from TikTok, Tana, whatever her name is, has deleted her entire TikTok profile. So I can't go back and watch the video to like link you to it, which is really unfortunate because there are 1,000 comments recommending enemies to lovers. And all I have is one. I have that one comment from TMCDS. I'm gonna read that username to you one more time. TMCDS. And then I have those 3 recommendations from Reddit. This one that I took for the same book, the username is 3xTMC. TMC. Is this not the same person? Like, I don't know what kind of conspiracy this is. How do I have 2 screenshots from about the same series from the same person? Like, I'm convinced this is the same person. Maybe it's the author. Maybe it's the street team. Maybe it's just the book series' biggest fan. Maybe there's just one woman keeping this whole operation afloat, keeping this book on the shelves. Not on my shelves. It's not at any of my local bookstores. So I grabbed the audiobook. It's 24 hours and I don't like the audiobook. It is grating to listen to. The accent that the narrator is giving our main character Tessa versus when it's exposition, like I don't understand that choice at all. And I'm putting all this time into this book to get to a sex scene in the 2nd or 3rd book. Okay, so in the first couple chapters, we met Tessa. Tessa, I can't remember how old she was, but she is Faye. And her best friend is Faye as well. He's like 6 foot tall, super sexy. And then there are these legacies who have powers from the gods. And they can choose if they want to be betrothed to one of the Fae, and that kind of unlocks the Fae's well of power, and then they're in control of the power. And there was this introduction of the idea of like mind connection, and that's something I really like. So I'm curious if the kink that don't look at me, the kink that was appealing to me apparently had something to do with the mind communication thing, because that is something that I'm looking for just in general. And Tessa is very much like, no legacy would ever want to choose me. I'm just dull and I'm honey blonde and I'm so small and I'm so little. But all I want to do is eat pizza and donuts. And of course, the legacy at the big event, not just a legacy, but like the legacy of all the legacies, selects Tessa as his girl, and now they're connected. And like this, I don't know if you want to read all of these, this is not giving enemies to lovers. Like, what part is enemies to lovers? Where he was calling her beautiful, where he was stroking her cheek, where she got a little bit injured and he was checking over every part of her body. He uses her preferred name. He's calling her a good girl. In the first 20 pages, he's calling her a good girl. This is a painful book. But I'm invested. I'm gonna have a good time. I've decided to turn the part of my brain on that can be a person who appreciates this kind of romantasy. I just want it on record that I hate this book, and I think that anybody who's loving it is crazy. I don't know why you would want to follow such a stupid main character who has absolutely zero self-preservation. It's infuriating. I get that she's being held captive, okay, and she's not scared enough, but she's constantly talking about how worried she is that someone's gonna punish her. Nothing bad has actually happened to her. We're like 20% of the way in, and she keeps just being the most defiant person. And I get that kind of character, but the book is going too hard with it and not giving her any intellect or like a plan. Instead, she's just constantly like, well, I don't want to do it. Well, I'm not going to do it. You can't make me do it. And then she like gets in trouble, and she's like constantly worried about getting in trouble. And even in front of his parents, I don't think he seems like the worst guy. Maybe like the progression of the story is he gets worse, but he seems like he's just doing this because it's what he has to do as a part of being a legacy, and he's trying to make it easier on her. The only thing at this point he won't let her do is eat pizza, yet he's giving her homemade bread, and then she's like, can I have a pizza? And he's like, no, pizza has no nutritional value. In fact, if you just add some nutrients onto the pizza, it's bread anyway. This book is not giving us a proper fantasy world. It's just our reality and all of like our current modern perspectives on things that don't actually make sense in this fantasy setting. I'm sure we can all sense the crash out, and I'm gonna surprise all of us by staying cool, calm and collected. I flipped back over to the audiobook while I was blow drying my hair, and I heard the words part 2, 500 pages into this book already. And I audibly said out loud to no one, I can't do this anymore, but I'm still gonna do it. You might be thinking, Kayla, why are you reading this? Like, just get to the next book where you answer the question that Reddit has made you spiral over. But no, and here's why. I can't just skim to the end of this book, because if I had done that, the last 50 pages, I would have missed so much information that I feel like will be relevant in this discovery scene for me, I'm hoping, because we just got so many answers that I wasn't even wondering. And that's what I will give this book credit for, is it's not one of those romanticities that I've read a million times where at the beginning it's like, these are all the roles of people in society. There's this secret role that no one knows, anybody who has this super special secret power. And so then the entire book you're thinking, well, it's probably that character who has a super special secret power. And then on page 600, it reveals this character has that super special secret power. But in this book, it didn't tell us there was a super secret magic power until the scene before it revealed the character who has the super secret magic power. And I was like, ooh, that's fun. That was the one fun scene for me. We just had the one fun scene for Tessa. They're playing, what the fuck was it called? Chaos Fear Ball. They're in a field. Her and her 3 bodyguards, we'll call them. This girl is surrounded by men. Let her get with all of them then, because I can't take it. Just her and this one man, because he sucks. And she's sad. She's been sad for 500 pages, and they just played Chaos Fear Ball in the park together on a little road trip, and he saw her smile for the first time, and he went, I love when she's happy. Then why are you yelling at her so much? He's like, I love when she smiles. She's so beautiful when she's laughing with her friends. Then let her spend time with them. He's supposed to be this big, bad, evil man, but he's not. He's really not doing that much terrible, evil stuff. He has a role he has to fulfill, and so he's keeping her captive, but he's not doing anything bad to her, except treating her like a dog, I guess. And his whole thing is like, he wants her to fulfill their bond. They have started to bond, but she needs to like really bond with him, and she won't fully give herself over to it. And he knows once she does, they'll both be happy. And so his idea is that he'll just make her miserable to show her how bad it could be, and then she'll want to bond with him because then they'll be happy together. But so he's like intentionally just making her unhappy by like not letting her control anything about her life, like what she eats and what she wears, and he won't let her go on a run by herself. Oh, and we can't forget the donuts. But in the scene I just read, she got her hands on a donut, but then she lost Theon over it. What was I saying? Oh, I wasn't gonna crash out. This book has no plot. Nothing has happened. They haven't done anything. It's been 500 pages of him just controlling her and her being sad about him controlling her. She's just surrounded by all of these men. Like, it's him, Theon, and his brother, and his like, I don't know, best friend security guy. And then there's this guy at a party who she's like, oh, he can save me and I can be friends with him. And then he tries to help connect her with her old friend who's also a big, sexy, hunking dude. Like, where are the women? And the only woman that gets introduced is the potential mate of Theon, because even though she's going to be his magical source, Tessa, that doesn't mean they're going to be like together. Actually, he has to have a traditional like marriage and family, not involving her. So now we have this woman in the picture for someone we can be jealous of. Ooh, fun. He's an idiot Her entire personality is so inconsistent scene to scene. I hate it here. I still have 100 pages to go, but maybe at least we're gonna get a spicy little scene and that'll make it all worthwhile. If it's poorly written, I don't know what I'll do, but I'll do something. Obviously, I hated this, whatever. What's fun is I do now have another book that I can film a spoiler-filled screaming review for in my new upcoming series for my channel members where I talk shit about all the worst books I read in the quarter. And considering this is only the 4th lowly rated book from me in the past 2.5 months, that's pretty cool. There was nothing sexy about this book. Even the scene that I read. Her being traumatized over and over again, not sexy. And is any of this consensual if it's perhaps her bond making her feel a certain way? Like, that's not sexy. One of the most annoying things about this was actually the uncovering of past trauma. And basically it in my opinion, just uses a plot point to give him another reason to be like overprotective rather than giving it to us in a way where Tessa can recover, where she can confront what's happened to her in her childhood and where she can grow from it or whatever. There is a version of toxic romance that can be fun to read. I don't think this is it. It was 700 pages of the same thing over and over again. The same argument. We're gonna be together. No, we're not. We already are though. I wish I was dead. But she's so pretty. I wish she was touching me right now. Is this the bond? I need to fight against the compulsion. Don't fight against my compulsion. I won't ever be with you. You already are though. I wish I was dead. You know, a book is boring when I was really locked in on learning about the gods and the legacies and the fairy princesses of it all. There was 3 pages of an explanation of things. And I was like, yes, tell me more. Please let me escape all of the dialogue that is so trite. I have a lot more to say, so it'll be fun and cathartic to film that. What's also kind of fun is that this recommendation didn't come to me. So like, I'm not at risk of offending anyone. Well, I guess I did say people who liked this series were crazy. And also, I guess there is a chance, speaking of my members, that like this was a recommendation at some point in the TBR jar. But in this moment, this was recommended to someone else and I just stole it, and I shouldn't have taken the recommendation because it wasn't meant for me. And now I just got Kindle Unlimited so I could skim through the next book and find a sex scene where something happens and then we'll do the Reddit reveal. If that post is no longer up, like I genuinely think this is the worst ending to a vlog ever. But I'm sure I can figure it out based on the scene. There was only one sex scene in 700 pages that I just read, so I don't know how long this is gonna take me to find. Wait. It just occurred to me, I can search for certain words in here. There are other perspectives, not in the first book. What should I search to find a sex scene? Sorry, Mom. Sorry. Okay. If you don't want anything spoiled relationship-wise or identity-wise then in the series, then you shouldn't continue. I don't think anyone is going to be involved with Tessa beyond Theon. I think we're just gonna get scenes with like other people because we have Axel here. Wait, she invited another guy into the bed but just to sleep. I'm so confused. If the prompt was just looking for a threesome in fantasy, I'm gonna freak out. She's using his magic in the bedroom. She's just like getting sexy revenge on him. Okay, girl. Okay, this is completely unrelated to what that Redditor was looking for. But damn, Tessa's fucking badass in this book. Okay, so nothing happened. I mean, I could have missed the sex scene, but this user said the title of the 3rd book, but then said it's the 2nd book. So I think I should be looking in Tempest of Wrath and Vengeance. Okay, let's again search our special word. Oh, mentioned 24 times in this one. Is Tessa sleeping with Luca? Tessa's fucking Luca. Yes! Okay, yes. Mind control or like mind communication while having sex with someone else. That's fun. Fuck you, that's so fun. Because it's like a group activity, but there's still only 2 bodies there, but you're like talking to someone else and they're telling you what to do and what they're seeing and what... Theon's in her head, but Luca's with her in real life. I wish I could have just read that chapter without reading the 1st book because I hate Theon's guts. But it's all worth it because 1,700 pages into this series There's a fun sex scene. If I actually gave a shit about Theon, I would wonder where he was and why she's now bonded to both of them and why they're not all together. Like why they can only communicate in their minds, but I don't really care. Let's see what the Reddit post was. Okay, the poster is pushing cookies. Looking for a specific spice scene. Love triangle with some mind games. I've read some books, noticed it's often the male main character and female main character that can speak or sense the other with some kind of telepathy. So I was looking to see if you had books with a love triangle where the female main character has sex with one male main character while having another male main character witness it while in her mind. Kind of like a threesome, with one male main character physically here and the other one mentally present. That's so fun. Of course I screenshotted that. Unfortunately for you, there is no more recommendations. It still remains these 3 are here 8 months later. That's it for me today. Thank you so much for watching my stolen book recommendations video. I might have to make this a series. We ended up with one star, sure, but also a bunch of 4s, a 3, and a 5. I think this was a success. Thank you to everybody who recommended things, who seek out recommendations on the internet. This is such a fun way to find things we need to read, and hopefully you left this with something to read of your own or just a little semblance of entertainment for the day.